Hello and welcome to another episode of This Week in Plymouth. I'm your host and I'm your town manager, Derek Brindisi. This episode, we are going to take a kind of turn to the right and talk cybersecurity. Typically, we talk about the things that our community sees on a regular basis. We talk about streets and sidewalks. We talk about our recreation areas. But we're going to go behind the scenes and meet Jeff Asamoah, yes, who is our newest and first ever cybersecurity manager. So, Jeff, most folks really don't pay attention to cybersecurity. Correct. It's one of those behind the scenes activities that take place, but it's so important to keeping the town moving forward because, as you know better than anybody probably in this community, that cybersecurity threats are real. Yep. They're every day. Yep. And there's people like you now here working for the town to help us, protect ourselves against these threats. I can tell you firsthand that, when you look across the state, there's been a lot of these different types of cybersecurity threats that have actually happened, right? Yep. So I think Lowell was one of them, yes, where there was something had taken place and they were able to freeze their finances, for example. Yep. So that's what we want to talk about today. And Jeffrey, we're happy that you're with us. But I think before we get into the nitty gritty of what is cybersecurity and what are the threats that are out there and how can we prevent those threats, I think what folks would really love to learn is like who you are, where have you come from, mm-hmm, as far as your training, your education, and what brought you here to Plymouth.
Awesome. First of all, thank you so much for having me here in your studio. And I also want to thank Joe and Ryan, that's my bosses. They put me on, and I really appreciate the beautiful citizens of Plymouth because they're the reason why we are always enforcing these cybersecurity rules. So I grew up in a small town in Ghana, in West Africa. So that was where I got my first elementary education, and then I transitioned to loving IT. I didn't have the traditional rule where people would actually kind of right from bed, they say that, oh, I knew computers right from away. Sure. In my case, I had to learn with it. I quite remember in elementary schools, we didn't have no computers. So everything was they would draw a computer on the board and then they would put a mouse near it. And then it's all about visualizing that this is what a mouse would do, and everything was on board. So that is how I kind of learned about computers. Really? So yeah, I didn't have the privilege to really kind of see computer firsthand and be like, this is what you do, this is what you do. It was all about envisioning it, like visualizing it. And that is what kind of grew my interest in computers, because that kind of gave me the opportunity to really learn more. And the first time I held a computer, I actually had a computer, I kind of knew where things were supposed to go, how to connect a mouse, how to set up your screen and all that stuff. So that kind of gave me like a little bit of first-hand knowledge about it.
And when was the first time that you were able to physically get in front of a computer?
So
how old were you?
I would say around 12 years old. Yeah. And then I probably got my first computer that my parents got for us. But before then, it was all, you got to visualize whatever they teach you in school.
And this is all taking place in Ghana?
Oh, everything, took place in Ghana, yes.
Wow, that's really cool. So obviously, did you finish your college education in computer science in Ghana, or did you come to the U.S. and go to college for that?
Yeah. So I did my bachelor's degree in Ghana, University of Ghana. So that is where I did computer science. Okay. And then once I finished, that was in 2012. And then I had the opportunity to work with an oil company as my first IT job. It was a help desk technician. So kind of going the day in and day out of helping users with their computers and all that stuff. It was very subtle and it wasn't anything extravagant. So that kind of gave me the first IT job that I kind of try to remote into it and try to learn gradually.
And this was all, again, taking place in West Africa?
All in West Africa. I transitioned, I came to the U.S. in 2017.
Okay.
And then I started getting onto educational forums and trying to learn much about computer science, because that was where I wanted to actually go into.
Sure.
Yeah, so, and I got my first job, I would say, around during 2021. That's when I got my first IT job with a healthcare in Cambridge. So I was living in Plymouth, but I used to commute back to Cambridge. The commute wasn't easy, but you know, it was a learning tool for me. So
yep.
Yeah.
And so when you worked in Cambridge, were you doing cybersecurity work?
No, I wasn't doing cybersecurity. That was also a help desk technician, but it was more geared into the cybersecurity role.
Sure.
So my cybersecurity came in with my previous company. I was a system administrator and equipment manager with them, and I was there for over, I'll say, 3 years. And in as much as I didn't have the title cybersecurity, my day in and day out was all focused on making sure that our equipment, our networks and everything are being secure. So that kind of gave me the upper hand, and then moving straight into cybersecurity.
And was that your last stop before you came here?
That was my last stop before I came here, yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk a lot about like your philosophy around cybersecurity and what we need to do as an organization to protect ourselves. But I can tell you before we get into that Joe Young, as you mentioned, the director of IT, and Ryan Ruggiero, the assistant director, really appreciate you now being here. Again, you were the first ever cybersecurity manager for the town of Plymouth. And obviously because this is an emerging threat, it's been a threat for decades now, but now we're starting to see it, hit us hard on the municipal level. Town meeting with the support, the recommendation, the select board have appropriated funds for your position, because they also have agreed that cybersecurity is a threat. So when I talked to Joe and I talked to Ryan, they have said to me, you being here is so important, because they now can look to you and say, listen, these are some of the threats, and they have somebody full-time that's working on that. Because before you got here, Joe and Ryan, amongst their other duties, were cybersecurity managers, right? They were trying to tamp out those threats, but now that you're here, they really appreciate you being here, because you're able to focus on this every single day. When you come to work, and I'm sure when you go home, you're always thinking about how we can protect ourselves, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. So let's take a step back. Let's give folks at home an understanding of what is cybersecurity. What are we talking about when we talk about cyber threats? Yeah,
so in relation, cybersecurity has been evolving, and it's been around for years, just that post-COVID, right, or before COVID, that is when things started to get really serious, and especially in the municipalities. As you mentioned earlier on, Joe and Ryan were the ones that was taking care of almost everything, and it cuts across almost all municipalities. They usually don't have a cybersecurity expert, because sometimes I would say lack of funds, and they're not using special equipment. So it's been like that for a while. But during COVID, that is when everyone was started to work from home, and that is when the security also kind of dampened a little bit. So the municipalities became a sweet spot for cyber criminals, because they knew that, these guys are working from home. There's so much public data that is being leaked. So that is where I think we got into huge issues when it comes to the municipality part.
Well, you bring up a really good point, because, when I worked for the city of Worcester, there was a lot of conversations about government transparency. And so I remember the city manager at the time, they created these things called like open checkbook, where anyone in the community could go on the town website, and they could do a search on what conferences the police chief went to, and how much money was spent, and they could look up people's personal identification information, or what vendors the city was using. And that was about 15 years ago. And a lot of those systems, these quote unquote government transparency systems, have gone away because of cybersecurity threats. And what we've learned, and I think you share the same, is that because we put all this information out there to be open to the public and give them the information they're looking for, bad actors have used that against cities and towns.
Yes. Yes.
And so how do we? So do you see the town in the same way that, some of the stuff that we have that's public facing, we should maybe reconsider taking that off because of cyber threats?
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah, it should be because of these attackers or these cyber criminals do not wait to attack. They really don't, I'll put in quote, they don't care whatever that you put out there. Regardless of any information that you put out there, they will try to stump upon it and then use it against you. So there's certain information that we try as much as possible not to put it out to the public, in a sense that we are not trying to hide anything, but we're trying to protect the citizens also. Because there's been emerging cyber threats where residents will get text messages that you have a water bill to pay, you have X amount of bill to pay, and then click on this link, and then it will take you to a whole malicious website where you put in all your information, and then it will get you right there. So there are certain things that we put in place, train our users that work in the town hall with us, and also try as much as possible to educate the residents as well.
So that's a really good point. And when I think of cyber security, I always think what we need to do at town hall to protect our financial systems, to protect our personal identifiable information. But you brought up a point that, although I heard about, I totally forgot about that. Bad actors, you call them cyber criminals, right? Cyber criminals, they can masquerade, right, on the internet as if they were town hall, right? Like you said, and send a message to some of our residents and say, listen, you got to pay a water bill, click here. And most folks are like, well, came from the town hall, I guess I got to pay the water bill. And like you said, and you click on that link, and that takes you where? It
takes you to a website, right? A quote unquote a website that it will take all your information out, and then that is when you've been attacked when it comes to the cybersecurity aspect.
And so what you're saying is not only are we want to protect the town's network, but we're also trying to put systems in place to protect our residents for scams, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about that just for a minute, because hopefully folks are like really paying attention to this segment. What can we give our residents for good information so that they can maybe recognize that this is a scam and it's not coming from town hall? Like, what's some good helpful tips?
So basically what I usually tell folks or tell people is that anytime that you get a link, right, that is forcing you to do something, that is where you should pause and then take a step back. These attackers want you to do things now. They will tell you, pay this now, else your water is gonna shut off. Pay this bill now, else your driver's license is all gonna shut off and all that stuff. So if you see any email or if you see any text message that is forcing you to do something within the minute, you gotta take a pause. And then most importantly, you could come to the town's website, the town official website, and then put in and try to check indeed if you're owing or not. Because some of these threats, I quite remember we just bought a house, and then we were getting a bunch of mails from the bank that we used saying that you got to pay this now, else you are facing eviction. Right then and then, I knew that it was a scam because it uses words that it wants you to take action right now. And that is one of the main things that if any resident can actually use, that if you get a text message or an email prompting you to do something within a few minutes, then you know it's not real.
Interesting. So again, for folks that are at home, like what Jeffrey's saying is that if you get an email that is suggesting it's coming from the town and is asking you to take immediate action, take a step back. I would suggest, you suggested going to the town website, but call the treasurer collector's office, right? I mean, they're the ones who send out water bills or send out tax bills. Call the treasurer collector's office and say, I just got this email And is it real or is it fake? And you can call the Treasurer Collector's Office at 508-747-1620, and they can help you answer those questions. So thank you for bringing that up, because those are the types of things that we know you're thinking about every single day to try to protect our residents. But what are you thinking about every single day to protect our network and protect the town's finances? So we have a $325 million budget. It's a massive budget. We're working with hundreds of vendors, whether they're paving our roads, they're hanging street signs, or any other type of project. I have heard, and I mentioned Lowell, city of Lowell was, they were victim to a cyber attack. And I believe that they had a couple $1 million that were held up. Their accounts were frozen, and they had to pay a sum of money in order to unfreeze all their financial accounts. So, we have $325 million. We don't want $325 million held up, especially we have to make payroll. We have a lot of upset employees if we can't make payroll. So what's your philosophy on the town's network and protecting the town?
Yeah, so basically, when I came in, Ryan and Joe had done a tremendous amount of job, which got me by surprise because of what was happening in towns, because people were not putting certain policies in hand. So when I came in, there were policies that was already enforced, which I was really, really impressed. So my job, it became even easier in the sense that I had to tweak certain things here or there to make sure that we strengthen our cybersecurity networks when it comes to the town itself. So we put certain policies in place, and not just putting the policies in place, also educating the employees as well, that if you get certain links, make sure you don't click on it, because sometimes email spoofing is all over the place. People would hide under, or they will impersonate certain people, town employees, town managers, selectmen, that, hey, send me this email, or why don't you click on this link? And then it will take you to a whole website where it would force you to put in your login credentials. And once you do that, then that's when the real issue starts. So we have actually put a whole lot of policies that block certain emails. So as soon as an email would even get to you, I see it firsthand, and then we let it out. Gotcha. So it's been a constant battling that I'm currently working on right now, that every morning, my day-to-day, I kind of go through all the logs, see all outbound and inbound emails that it's been going back and forth, all the encrypted emails that we do get, making sure that everything is being in proper balance.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because I did get an email, I don't know if it was yesterday at some time, where two of my emails were with Jeffrey in the Barracuda.
Yes.
So I just left them there. I just assumed that they were some type of spam and you were taking care of them. But I did see your name. I saw that they get stuck in Barracuda. But Jeff, you bring up an interesting point, actually a timely comment about impersonation, right?
Yes.
So just this past week, there was an article on the Plymouth Independent about an individual, a Border Patrol agent, who was impersonating me. And they sent an email to the the chief of police back in December, instructing the chief to take action against some folks that he thought had some wrongdoing in town. And then he signed it, my name, Derek Brindisi, town manager, had my email address on it. And the chief came up to me, he printed the email, and he asked me about it. This was back in December. And I had said at the time, I said, I didn't send the email, and two, I knew nothing about the subject matter. So they did an investigation, they traced back the IP address and found out there was a Border Patrol agent impersonating as me, trying to get the chief of police to do something that he wanted them to do. So this guy's now headed to court to defend himself, but that happens. You talked about impersonation. It happened to me in December, and so I can only imagine if an individual, say working in one of our finance offices, gets an email signed by the town manager with, as you pointed out, a link that says, click here, by the town manager. Most town employees are like, hey, the town manager wants me to click there, I'm going to click there. So what can we do? We talk about impersonation, we talked about spoofing. What can we do for the employees so that they're armed with good information?
So what we've been doing from our IT perspective is we are training our employees, right? That anytime that you do get a link, and if, let's say it comes from you, saying Derek says, okay, you got to take action now. As I said earlier on, any email that comes in that is forcing you to do something right now, just take a step back. And I really appreciate the chief coming up to you, printing it out, and saying that, confirming that indeed it was you that you were, it wasn't you that you were trying to do that. So first of all, we are training our users that if you do get a link, hover around the link, it will show where it is coming from. Sometimes it might be very difficult for, if you are not like cyber trained, you wouldn't know that this is legit or not. But if you, most important, if you hover around the link, it will show where the email is being coming from. And then you'll be able to know, oh, this isn't Derek. This is from X person trying to do something to me.
And that's the training that you're referencing, right?
Yes.
So, because I've noticed in the past couple of years, like Joe Young, the IT director, he has forced all employees to go through certain training.
Yes.
And it sounds, and I continue to see, is it like a Know Be Well?
Know Before.
Know Before.
Yeah.
More training to help our employees recognize those types of emails that come through that are spam, that are spoofing, that are impersonators trying to gain access to our systems.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. We've been doing that, and we send it out weekly. We send out these trainings, and then we send out phishing tests where, in case you do get like a phishing test from us, and then once you click on it, it will send you to a direct link saying that, hey, you've been phished. You got to watch this video. You got to train yourself. And we kind of get a compilation of all the users that fail, and then I kind of reach out to them and try to train them also. In the training part, we don't want to be super strict where a user will get a link, mistakenly click on the link on a Friday afternoon. Oh, I'm going to keep quiet and just go home. When I train, I try as much as possible to let them know the implications, what one click can cause. Because I'll say almost 90% of all cyber threats that do come are user error, someone clicking something wrong. So we try as much as possible to have that one-on-one conversation, understand them, and then so that if they mistakenly click a link, they can reach out to me. It's like, hey, Jeffrey, I mistakenly clicked this link, and then right away I rectify it, rather than trying to create this idea that, oh, I'm afraid of IT. I don't want them to know that I did this thing or not.
Yeah, right. We want to teach our employees what to look out for, what to be aware of, because they're on the front lines. You can't control all the emails that come in and out every day, but they can help with that. And I know you're doing like electronic training and things of that nature. Have you thought about having like group trainings where you bring certain departments together, say like in our conference rooms, and to kind of go through this? I'm in the National Guard, and I've gone through lots of cybersecurity training. It's an annual requirement. We are required to do this every single year, or if we don't get our certificate, we're not allowed to access the network anymore. And so I wonder if you think that's a good idea to bring our employees together as this kind of like a level set baseline, so everybody has a baseline understanding what to look for and what not to look for.
Yes, me, myself, Joe, and Ryan, we had this conversation a while back that we'll be setting up in a few weeks to come. We'll be setting up smaller groups in one of the halls where we will get the finance team come into this meeting, and then we can train them what they should look up for. And then that is how we're going to narrow all the small groups in place.
That's great.
Yeah.
So looking forward, we
Yes.
have a few minutes left this afternoon. You've been here for about 6 months now, I think? About 6 months. So what do you envision for the next 3 to 5 years in your role in protecting the community and the town's network altogether?
Yeah, I see that we are heading in the right direction because the training that we put in place, the most important, the employees are getting it. They are really understanding why we're doing what we're doing. So I foresee that in the next 3 to 5 years, we will be a a town, or we will be a community where everyone will be careful of certain things. Everyone will be, I'll say, cyber knowledged.
Sure.
And that is where we are heading to.
And so I do know, Joe, part of this like long-term plan has talked about getting the departments together to do like a tabletop exercise.
Yes.
Because one thing Joe has said to me over and over, what happens if our system does go down?
Correct.
I know we have Jeff, and he's going to make sure the system never goes down, but you never know, right? And so he's talked about a lot, like if we go through this exercise and the system does go down, like, how are we going to continue to move the community, the town forward so that we can continue to make payroll, we can continue to keep the lights on. What are your thoughts on those types of exercises? Are they helpful?
Yes, it is extremely helpful, and I'm part of that exercise as well. So we are having an incident response plan that in case there is an incident, right, this is what we're going to do. We don't want to wait till the incident happens before we take a plan of action. So it's always best that you try to prepare for the worst, that in case certain things happen, you already know that, okay, I'm going to reach out to Casey. She's the communication director, to send out an email or to send out or to call various people that, okay, let's get this in place and all that stuff. So we already have a great incident plan that we'll be executing in the few weeks to come to make sure that if something happens to us, we are already in line of battle.
We already have a contingency plan ready to go, so that, Well, that's great. And I'm happy you came on today because I feel a lot better about our cyber posture than maybe I did, 24 hours ago. We know we need, a position like yourself, maybe multiple positions in the future, depending on, how cyber, security grows. Everything we do is electronic nowadays compared to even 20 years ago. So, as we use more and more technology, I see the need to continue to look for additional folks to help in that respect. So. Thank you for coming on this afternoon. I appreciate you giving us a history of your background, where you came from. The next time you go to a crowd, I'll go with you so I can visit the friends I made, back in 10 years ago, last time I was there. So, Jeffrey, thank you so much, and we appreciate you coming on. And so for the folks at home, if you want to learn more about what we're doing at Town Hall, the various programs, we have lots going on with surveys and conducting master plans with the planning board, or master plans on Forges Field and Hedges Pond Road Recreation Area. Go to the town's website. It's safe. Jeffrey just talked about how safe it is. So go to the town's website, learn more about the things that we're doing. You can find us at www.plymouth-ma.gov. If you don't want to go to the website, you can always call us at 508-747-1620. Until next time, thank you very much. This Week in Plymouth.